A season featuring returning Survivor contestants from the US and internationally has been thrown around by the community a lot, so I decided to make my own dream cast. First is the US, and how can you not have a season without the most recent two-time winner, Tony. Now, I'll admit various individuals on this cast likely wouldn't compete on this kind of season, and I don't think Tony is any different. I don't know if he'll come back for a season like this. Furthermore, in my opinion, if the US were to host this season, it would likely be with Survivor 41 and beyond contestants as their representatives. But number one, it's my dream cast, and number two, I've already done several casting videos with modern seasons exclusively, so I wanted to switch it up. Do I really have to justify Tony on this cast though? Well, I doubt he makes it to the end, whether it's only one episode or several that he's on our screens. He's incredibly entertaining, and hey, if he makes it to the end, then at least we have our first three-time winner. The same can be said for the following contestant, Sandra. And, I know, Sandra said she'd never play Survivor again. I get it. Okay, there's no need to boo me. She did say that statement of never playing again on season 40, Winners at War, only to immediately return to Survivor, albeit in Australia with its 7th season, alongside her daughter Nina. This is probably the right time for me to state that if I think we're going to have a season like this, it will probably be in Australia. It's been the only one to have contestants feature outside of its home show, and considering so many people, even former Survivor contestants, are asking for it, it would definitely pull in viewers. That being said, I would have no complaints with it being in Survivor South Africa, or America, or in the UK. But Sandra has already appeared on Blood vs. Water, showing she's completely fine with international related seasons, so she gets a thumbs up. On the topic of villains, I also added Russell Hantz. Now, supposedly there is a blacklist with Russell's name on it due to apparently spoiling Survivor seasons, but again, it's my dream cast. I feel Russell's legacy and how innovative his gameplay was can't be understated. He, in my opinion, is the reason we live in a far more advantage-heavy meta where you don't even need clues to find idols anymore. Plus, he either dominates the games he's a part of in a deeply flawed manner or flames out spectacularly. Whichever Russell we get, I'm excited to see nonetheless. Pretty much a lock for a tribe of, let's face it, legends, is Cirie Fields. She's been eliminated in a fire-making challenge with a god idol, a surprise final 3, a minority idol play with a member of the majority flipping their vote onto her, and of course, that. So it's either she gets to the end, like we've been waiting 15 years for, or she gets taken out in an insane tribal, as usual with Cirie, and either are fine with me on this all-star cast. Cirie is one of the most likeable contestants ever, and I know her story has inspired many people to push themselves, so it was a no-brainer. On the topic of crazy tribals, however, I also added in Kelly Wentworth, the woman with the most votes negated at a tribal council, and she was a good bit of the reason as to why Cambodia had so many chaotic tribal councils. I think her underdog heroic run turned villainous overdog between her 2nd and 3rd seasons shows she can have variance in her appearances and gameplay styles. Not to mention, I think her Edge of Extinction blindside sets her up so well for a strong redemption arc on her 4th attempt. Now, most of these all-star seasons have a bit of a wildcard pick, if you will, and my video is no exception. For the final slot, I wanted someone to represent the physical game in Survivor. I considered individuals like Kobe and the iconic Aussie Lazuth, but I already have 3 heroes versus villains and game changer representatives already. So I went with Terry Dietz, who also won 5 immunity challenges, which alongside his god idol made him probably the most immune person in Survivor history. He's technically only played 1 full game, far less than these other contestants, don't get me wrong, but that played into my decision making as well. Terry was set up well in Cambodia to make a deep run, but because of his son being hospitalised, had to obviously take himself out of the game. Personally, I think Dietz has unfinished business. He was the one person on second chances that didn't get to fully embrace his second chance. I also think it speaks volumes Dietz is such a recognised individual, despite his Panama appearance being his only deep run that was also 15 years ago. Overall, I think he fits out the US group well. Now into Australian Survivor, and this is currently happening during Heroes vs Villains, with some contestants I'll be discussing featuring on said season. So I may be talking about an individual as a non-winner, only to realise a month later they may have actually won this season. I apologise, I'm not a fortune teller. This also means in the unlikely event one of them gets cancelled, I'm sorry, I'm from the past, not like that has already happened to me on this season or anything. Oh god, make it stop. On the topic of heroes versus villains, the first person that has to be added is George. This man is the textbook definition of chaos, and I'm all here for it. His original season was a roller coaster ride, consisting of idle plays, a rivalry with pretty much everyone, and yet he somehow survived until the very end. But what's a king without their queen? The only person to have ever beaten George is Hayley, the winner of Brains vs Brawn. While she was voted out in her winning game, even I have to respect Hayley had a triple threat game and would be a perfect fit on this cast. As we saw on her original season, Hayley was bouncing around like a bunny from person to person, and on a season of veterans, I think she'll be just as active in doing whatever to survive. She's willing to sell out anybody, can win immunities, and even broke the winner's curse in Heroes vs Villains, so she's an excellent winner pick. And we're not stopping at one winner, just like previously with Survivor US. And with the rest of this video, I want 2 winners to represent each international survivor. We already picked up Survivor royalty, so I tossed in the God of Gold and All-Stars winner David Janat. The fact, this man won an All-Star season considering his season 4 run left me speechless. Something people miss about the modern era is big idle plays as well as blindsides, but anyone that has watched Australian Survivor knows about David's guarantee of making tribals explosive. However, if you're skeptical about David's ability to make highly enjoyable vote-offs alone, I also added his good friend Luke. Luke will probably go down as one of the most loved international Survivor contestants, or just Survivor contestants in general. I mean, fans literally raised hundreds of thousands of dollars for him after his return because they felt he deserved the win so much. In a modern Survivor, we need fun character moments more than ever to counter a strategy-heavy meta. Luke is that extremely enjoyable presence. Sure, he's strategic, but he's also got a rootable story and loves to make big moves. Also, I kept with the expected 3-tribe format, but put 2 individuals from each version together to prevent similar storylines since we have 3 game changers and also now 3 Australian All-Stars. So it goes without saying I put Luke onto the same cast as Tony. I mean, I'm not passing up on them being able to build a spy shack together. The cast is looking good so far, but needs a snarky individual. We can look forward to ripping into the other contestants, guaranteed. For me, the gold standard for that role is the Queen of Mean, Shawnee. Now, once upon a time, I considered Shawnee a hero due to having 2 impressive underdog runs, but after seeing her on Heroes vs Villains, she is also fully capable of embracing her dark side. When you add that in with the fact she's underrated at challenges, is seemingly a magnet to any advantage, and has some of the best Survivor quips in the franchise ever seen, this lady in the Alliance has to join. I should hush myself, however, because I added yet another member of the Alliance in Sharn. With such a stacked cast representing different parts of the globe, I couldn't ignore the only 2-time runner-up from both Champions vs Contenders and All-Stars. Sharn has shown, irrespective of threat level or skill level of opponents, she can consistently make deep runs. Also for me, she is a great narrator in the confessional booth, which juxtaposes her occasional frazzle gameplay on the island. So it's either we get to see Sharn actually get eliminated on this season, or she makes it to the end for a 3rd time, which would be insane. Last but certainly not least is Survivor South Africa, the most underrated of the survivors in my opinion. It only had its first all returnee season recently, so several of the contestants will only be one-timers, but I still feel I picked solid and entertaining players. An example of this is Rob Bentley from Island of Secrets, who, in my opinion, played one of, if not the most dominant games that have won outside of the US. He's essentially the South African Boston Rob, creating a, let's face it, cult-like mentality to destroy all of his oppositions, and is really good at articulating his strategy in the confessional booth. A Rob return would be fascinating, so we can see if he can continue his dominant reign with more experienced competition. On the topic of winners, however, I also added Nicole from yet another island-themed season in Island of Secrets. Return of the Outcasts feature contestants between seasons 4 to 8, so I kept that mentality for casting, meaning the only female winner available was Nicole, but it's fortunate that she's one I really want to see on an international Rivals cast like this. All-Star seasons typically have an underestimated, under-the-radar female pick, and Nicole fits that mould. It's how she won her original season after all. And I feel like out of all the winners we've discussed, Nicole has the best opportunity of sitting at the end and winning yet again. The final one-time player is someone the whole community has been waiting to return, and that is Werner. For no one that has seen Survivor South Africa Philippines, that is a shame, because it is a glorious train wreck with Werner adding fuel to the fire. I mean, this is the man that ate an idol clue in the premiere. Werner dominated season 6, however. He found several idols and was a part of many massive tribal councils, and also made a deep run. On the topic of SA Philippines, I added the woman on the thumbnail, Palessa, who, yes, I know had a fairly underwhelming return on Return of the Outcasts and didn't make it to the merge. But to excuse her slightly, she was booted at the same tribal her entire tribe either bluffed or actually had idols. Again, I need to reiterate, Survivor South Africa is something else. In her original season, she was part of a wild rock draw at the second tribal, survived while on the bottom with an idol, and got voted out with an idol in her pocket. Palessa is worth her weight in entertainment. Another Return of the Outcast contestant I added was the runner-up of that season, Shane. Now yes, I could have added Dino, but I felt 2 winners per region was best, and I really want to see a Rob Bentley return. Shane on Champions was Chaos Incarnate by finding idols, losing them, stealing idols, and then refinding the ones he stole. Not to mention he's not afraid to make big moves, as we even see on Season 9, he nearly gets voted out due to trying to blindside a big threat. The final returnee also is from Champions and Return of the Outcasts in Marianne, who is basically the star of the show that season. She is a very cutthroat player, extremely snarky, and is very open to talking about overcoming her vertigo, which I feel is a storyline any survivor would want to raise awareness about. I mean, this is literally the woman that helped steal an idol from another woman's bag, and then blindsided her in the same episode. It doesn't get a lot more cutthroat than that. You can always trust Marion to be down to earth and quite frankly tell it how it is, so I feel she's a fantastic final addition. As promised, here's the cast consisting of 18 Survivor contestants. Let me know your dream cast in the comments with the same criteria, and let me know which contestants you think would win the crown in this group of 18. If you enjoyed, make sure to subscribe, and here's a video talking about the most brutal betrayals in Survivor, which you'll enjoy. Nonetheless, have a great day, and peace!